So I was waiting at a bus stop in the morning for my best friend. Her name is Yizin, and I was really excited because it was her birthday and we had brunch planned. She was about a few minutes late, so I had the time to really soak in that morning. And so I remember sitting at this bus stop opposite an old shop house, and below it there was a noodle shop that had just started opening for the morning crowd. They had pulled over the gate, which was made out of rusty metal panels that would collapse when you move them. And from the bus stop, I could hear the shaking of forks and spoons in the basket and the chairs dragging across the floor as the shop people were setting up. And yeah, this was a Sunday morning in Geylang, and there was a very slow and lazy feel about the neighborhood. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with what a memory stamp is, but this was one of them. And it's when you recap a memory and it feels almost visceral. So Yizin arrives, who's my best friend, and I give her the biggest hug, and we make our way over to the restaurant where we were seated outside. In my bag, I had her gift, which was a small badge that was the shape of a T-Rex fossil that I bought just the day before. And for someone who loved animals, as well as paleontology as much as she does, I knew she'd like it. But the thing was, I had actually found this badge 2 months ahead and was going back and forth with it because it was relatively expensive for a little badge made out of brass. And at the time, I was working in a retail store. And yeah, I was working on my savings. So this little badge was $200. So after lunch, I pull out the box with the badge in it, and I gave it to her and I said, "Happy birthday." And she opened up the box, and there was this big smile on her face. She said thank you, and the good thing was she loved it. She had loved it so much, she insisted on wearing it that day. And so she pinned it just on her chest over here. We hopped on a bus to travel down Central, and at the time the bus was so crowded, we had to do this weird dance just to get a meter in. But we actually landed a seat, and for those of you who take the bus, there's this like awkward seat in the front where it's made for like a tall person and a really small child. So her and I like crammed into it, and it wasn't comedy gold, but the bus driver looked behind and he saw us and he cracked up, and I thought, okay, well, I guess it's funny then. He was just being really friendly. So we get off at the Orchard stop, and we were making our way over to dessert. And by that point, we had already such a great day. And so we continued walking, and we were cracking up like two old ladies on the street, reminiscing through childhood memories. And yeah, there was like a spring in our feet. We were having fun. And for those of you who know, there's a pathway undercross in Lucky Plaza, and we started making our way down there. And that's when I looked at her and I said, "Did you put your badge away?" She slowed down, turned around, looked at me, and said, "No, I didn't." So at that point, then and there, we realized that she must have dropped it along the way, and we immediately started backtracking our steps, and we had our eyes glued onto the floor. We kept walking, and we got back to the Orchard bus stop. And by this point, it had started drizzling, and so the street crowd had started parting to hide in the shelters. And yeah, Yizin and I gave the wet pavement one last scan to see if we could find anything that resembled a badge. At that point, there was a second of silence, and we both sighed. She looked at me, and I looked at her. She said, "Well," and I said, "Yeah," but it took about a minute before we started giggling, and we decided that the day had actually been more eventful because we had lost a badge. And so when I think back to this day, I think about how grateful I am for this friend and how grateful I am for the kind of fun we can have together. Because in place of losing this badge, we created a memory stamp that was just such a great and fun memory. Thank you.